I'm Arthur Moats, and I'm here to tell you about my new book, The Moats Theory of Life. If you haven't picked up a copy yet, I strongly encourage you to. This book not only is a fun read, but it's a guide to helping you become a person of impact and inspiration. If you are ready to take the next step to improving not only your life, but those around you as well, go get a copy of The Moats Theory of Life, and it's available at moatstheory.com.
What's up? It's the Arthur Moats Experience with Deke. I'm Arthur Moats, and that's my main man, Deke.
What's up, bro?
Man, anytime I get to see you with a button-up shirt,
come on, bro.
Taco meat showing.
Listen, I told you.
Oh, baby.
This is the spring and summer vibe.
I'm loving
really
it, man.
is.
I'm loving it. Yo, it's a clean look. And you look good. I don't know how you still been committing to your journey, but physically, you look good. Your physique looks nice, man. So I just want to shout you out for that, man. Keep up the awesome work. Future Brad Pitt and Fight Club. I'm with it, man.
June 1st.
Let's go. Oh, we got it. We stamping the date.
Oh, yeah. It's been stamped. It's been stamped. I have been very sporadic. Actually, not even sporadic anymore because I'm not even doing it. I used to post my logs to Twitter of like what I was doing day by day. I'm too disorganized for that. So it's either I get it done or I don't. That's what it really comes down to.
Okay.
Trust me that I am staying regimented though.
I like it. Well, listen, like I've said numerous times, you've never given me a reason not to believe you. So with that being said, keep up the awesome work because the results are showing. I like what I see. You look good.
Thanks, bro. Thank you.
Yes, indeed. But man, we had big time action this weekend, man, from a sports standpoint. Now, granted, it wasn't football related, but anybody that's, into sports, it's a big time UFC fight this weekend. UFC 259, and oh my goodness. We don't got to talk about the whole card because I can do this for like hours on top of hours. I was in heaven. You know how I feel about the fight game. This is my thing, baby. But the 3 title fights, man, it was kind of crazy. But the first one I wanted to talk to you about and kind of get your thoughts on was the Aljamain Sterling versus the Piotr Yan fight. Man, it was a crazy finish in terms of an illegal knee. And for the first time in UFC history, we saw a champion lose his belt because of a DQ. And we saw a person win the belt because of a DQ. Just what were your thoughts on that, man, in terms of seeing a champion lose his belt that way, but then also seeing somebody win the belt in that same manner?
Well, I kind of almost want to flip this back to you because I see the knee to the head. I'm like, okay, this is a
super illegal, right?
This is a very violent sport. I wouldn't have expected that. If you just would have showed me the highlight, I wouldn't have thought that's illegal at all. But I guess it's in the rule book.
Yes, indeed.
So if that's the case, then what can you do about it? Where does the controversy lie? Is it because of the belt? Is that the thing?
Yes.
Okay.
That's the big thing because obviously when it comes to just sports in general, right? You always feel like you have to earn the belt. You have to get the belt by beating the champion. But because of this scenario where it was a DQ, it kind of altered that. But the reason for me, I look at it differently is because the knee was so blatant. Like anybody that follows combat sports, if a person is ruled down like that, right? Both knees on the ground, both hands were down, or at the time he was still trying to, gather himself, but the referee had said, hey, he's down. You can't blatantly knee a guy. You saw how violent he was. I mean, it knocked the dude out. He was awake, but he was not awake. You know what I mean? So when I saw that was the part that made it so just different because of how blatant and how egregious it was. But when you're throwing the belt in there, that's the part that makes it different. Like, part of me loves the fact that Piotr Yan lost the belt because of that, right? Because, hey, if you're the champion, it's on you. You're the person that's in control of your body. You know the rules, what you can and can't do. So I didn't have an issue with him losing it. But Aljamain, in terms of him becoming champ off of it, that's where it gets a little dicey because technically he did win because it was a DQ. But at the time of the fight, I mean, two cards had the champion up 2-1, and then the other guy had Aljamain up 2-1. So you could see it was a close fight, but anybody watching it could see that the tide was turning. Piotr was definitely starting to take over the fight. So to see it kind of play out like that is just I'm kind of torn. You know what I mean?
It's the belt. Then why not just
it's
have
definitely
it?
The belt.
Why
right?
not just have it neutral? Well, because everyone's saying they're going to do a rematch soon, right?
They got to do a rematch. The biggest thing is once Aljamain gets clear, because he definitely was concussed. You saw his eye start to swell up after he had got the knee and stuff like that. So once he gets cleared, then obviously they'll go through their full just post-fight recovery phase, and then hopefully we can get this sooner than later, because it was a good fight. And it was interesting to see how, you know, one guy trying to keep this fast tempo, the other guy has the knockout power, and you're just seeing both of those dynamics start to play out. So right when it was really getting really, really good, it's like, dang, now we get this nonsense, this knee. Come on, man.
Yeah, that's really unfortunate. Be honest with you, though, whenever this fight happens again, you're going to be loving it a little bit more, because if this was a normal way how it ended, maybe they wouldn't be doing this rematch. But now there's going to be so much more build up. I'll probably be tuning in. I'm actually surprised with you saying how big of a fight card this was that I didn't tune in. I'm not the biggest fight fan, but normally I tune into some of these big fights. Now with this one, with the storyline, I'll probably be checking this one out. Not going to lie.
Listen, the reason why this next one is going to be so much bigger, obviously we have the controversy in terms of how the fight ended. Obviously we have the changing of the guard from a belt standpoint. These dudes were already going at it before the fight. Now, if you follow them on social media, they've been bickering because you get the apology from Piotr, but then a picture surfaces of Aljamain with the belt, you know, with his family and friends. Now, he doesn't post the picture. One of his friends did. So Piotr goes there and he's like, oh, I thought that, you know, you weren't going to accept the belt this way. Here it is 5 minutes later, you posting pictures. So then from there, Aljamain is like, oh, I thought it was an accidental knee, but did the SpongeBob meme with the crazy writing and stuff. So it was funny, but you could just see back and forth. They're going at it. And, you know, just I think the longer this thing continues on, the more heat is going to get, and you're going to get an even better lead up to the fight next time, because sometimes the lead up is what makes it that much bigger. You know, when you get these pre-fight interviews, that's what made Conor McGregor so just, you know, polarizing, was what he could do to sell that fight ahead of time. When you get that storyline, when you feel like the guys genuinely don't like each other, you're like, dude, I got to see this now. So without a doubt, man, I'm definitely going to be excited when they run it back, man.
No, 100%. And you're right with McGregor. I've probably watched most of his fights as of late, probably his last like 4 or 5, just because he's Conor McGregor. Yeah. I was looking up his ranking in his weight class. He's like 6th right now. I don't care. I would watch him over any of those other dudes in his weight class right now. It is what it is.
Absolutely. He knows how to sell a fight, man.
What would you do with the belt?
If I'm Aljamain, put it like this, and I had tweeted this out right when it happened. I said, because you were in there competing, because it was still a close fight, 2 judges had you down 1 round, the other judge had you up 1 round. So you can see how tight it was and how highly contested it was. You didn't do anything wrong. So if I'm Aljamain, even though I don't feel 100% validated, I still am going to wear that belt because I did earn it. I went in there and competed. I was winning on at least 1 card and was in contention to win on the other cards until you did something blatantly illegal, blatantly dirty. So I'm taking my belt, but I definitely think that, you know, I wouldn't feel 100% good about it until I defended it. Now, it doesn't matter if it was versus Piotr or any other bantamweight. I'm not going to feel comfortable until I get a chance to defend it, because that's not the way you want to win a title. It's no different if you won a game on a crazy penalty at the end of it. It's just like, I mean, did we win? Yes, but it doesn't feel as good as it should feel. But it will once he gets a chance to defend it.
Do you think they'll immediately do the rematch, or do you think they'll give him a chance to face someone else?
I think it depends on how these next, you know, week or 2 of conversations go, because initially once the fight ended, hearing how Piotr sounded sincere and then hearing Aljamain and the emotions he was dealing with, I thought it was going to be guaranteed that the rematch would get done. And Dana White, the UFC president, said similar things. But now that the social media beef has started, it kind of makes me feel like I could definitely see Aljamain, because of how blatant the knee was, and now seeing what Piotr is tweeting after the fact, it kind of would make me, if I'm him, I would be over here like, well, you don't seem too remorseful. So you know what? Maybe that apology was full of crap. So why should I give you the chance to get this belt back? No, I'm going to go fight someone else. You go on your way to come up here and meet me again. I could definitely see that being the case if he continues on this path. Because if you hit me with something illegal, you give me this apology, but then 5 minutes later, you up here talking smack about me. Nah, that ain't gonna fly, baby. That's not gonna fly.
You could see it going both ways from a business standpoint. The longer you hold it off, as long as the dude that holds the belt keeps winning, then the build up increases a little bit. But if he loses, then it's like, oh man, you missed your chance for that hype period.
But the thing is, both of these guys were coming in on a 4 and a 5 fight win streak. So you could see that this was the marquee matchup. This was the matchup that we were all looking for. And it was living up to it up until the knee. You get the knee and it's just like, come on, man. Like, what are you doing, man? It was just about to get interesting. We were going to see who was going to break first here. But that's the beauty of sports, right? You have to follow rules. It's that simple, man. And if you don't, these are the consequences to that, man.
You could correct me if I'm wrong on this, but I either heard or read that people in Jan's corner were telling him to knee Sterling.
Yes, man. So, obviously, Piotr is Russian. So the conversation and the communication was all in Russian. But at the time, you remember the current chap / if he's retired, not Khabib Nurmagomedov, right? So he was actually near the corner because he was actually a cornerman for one of the fights that was before that one.
Oh, for real?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, he has a young stud, Islam Makhachev. Dude is a beast. He looks just like Khabib, just younger. Fights just like him, mauls guys. Like, he's going to be the next champ coming up. And I honestly think he'll be the champ by the end of the year. You know, like he's on that type of trajectory right now, man. He dominated Drew Dober, and Dober's a really good fighter. Yeah, it wasn't close, though. So you could just see, but because Khabib was still in that area, he could hear them speaking in Russian because obviously he speaks Russian. He's from there. And as the fight is going on and they're showing the replay, you hear the one cornerman, he's like, he's saying something, and he's the guy's, and obviously they translated, and it was like he's telling him punch only. But then another person in the corner is like, throw the knee, yes. And they're like, oh, and boom, you see him throw it. And from there, the one guy knows as soon as it happens, he's like, dang, going, like throws his arms up, like, what did you do? The other guy, you could tell he doesn't know the rules. He gets excited. He's thinking he just won the fight. He's like, yeah, good job. Heck yeah. And we're like, no, dude, you cannot do that at all. So granted, because they had masks on, we can't pinpoint who exactly said to throw it or not. But you can definitely see the reaction from the veteran cornerman throwing his arms up like, yo, we just blew it. It's over. And then you see the younger guy extremely ecstatic, like, yes, you did it. You knocked him out. Heck of a job. So take that for how you want to take it. But either way, it was confirmed that, yes, the guy definitely told him to throw the knee. So bad judgment, from the cornerman. But at the end of the day, when you're the person in the ring, you know the rules. And you're in control of your body.
You should at least.
You should, right? Especially if you're fighting a championship fight. And this was his first title defense. So it's not like he was new to this thing. So with that being said, man, like I said, I think that's more so on him, man. So hopefully he learns from this unfortunate circumstance.
For sure. 2 more,
Absolutely,
right?
Man. Yeah, and then we had the I don't even want to call her the female GOAT because she's in just legit conversations to be GOAT of UFC fighting. Amanda Nunes versus the Australian, the 6-foot phenom, Megan Anderson. And it was only interesting because Megan was 6 foot, and we've never seen Amanda Nunes fight somebody as big as her, as like rangy and has the length that she has. But dude, it looked like a pit bull on a chihuahua.
Seriously?
It got gory. Oh my God. From like, as soon as Amanda landed her first punch, you could just see Megan's eyes got so big and it like she got hit with a brick. And after that, it was just like, yo, she's just unstoppable. At least she gave her the mercy kill, right? She could have beat her up a little bit more. She submits her, but it's just crazy to see. I mean, I remember when she beat Ronda Rousey and everybody was kind of surprised by it. And now she's just dominated everybody that they've thrown in front of her. It's insane to see her clean out 2 divisions and hold 2 belts simultaneously and be the first person in UFC history to defend both belts at both weight classes. It's insane when I think of her, man.
just from watching the highlights, it looked like Megan had no clue what she was doing. She was like spinning around, deer in headlights, have no clue what you're doing. You're right. It just looked like someone knew what they were doing. The other person had no clue.
And the thing that's crazy, watching Megan's past 3 fights, she's looked really good.
She was number one, right?
Yes, she's had some knockouts. She has a great lead jab that she, controls her opponents with. The long legs helps her when she gets on the ground and things like that. But with Amanda Nunes, she is just ever evolving. Her ground game continues to get better. You've seen that now with the submission. We've seen her head kick Holly Holm, who is the head kick specialist. And then obviously she went toe-to-toe with Ronda Rousey and made light work of her in less than, 2 minutes, I think it was. When you just see Amanda, it's almost like it doesn't matter who she's in there with. They're all going to look the same, except one person. There's one person that has given her a run. And we might see a trilogy with that. This is Valentina Shevchenko. She's the champion at 125 right now. Oh, excuse me. No, at 115 right now. No, excuse me. I said that right. No, 125. Yeah, because obviously Nunes has the belts at the other 2 classes. But with Shevchenko, now, they fought twice. Both of them have been crazy close. The last one between them two, I personally thought that Shevchenko won the fight. They gave it to Amanda on a split decision. I'm not opposed to them going for the trilogy because I think that's the only interesting fight right now as pertains to Amanda. But the thing is, Amanda's still just a bigger fighter. And I feel like as long as she's fighting smaller people, because Shevchenko is going to be is the smaller fighter in there, I don't think it matters because Amanda's just too strong for any of those women right now, man. So it's crazy, though, to see her really just be able to dominate multiple divisions like that. Like, I don't think we've seen anything like this so far, man.
You said crazy fight. Is this the one where the one girl's head was like popped out?
No.
Okay, that was a different one.
So that was Joanna Jędrzejczyk versus Wei Li. And with those two, right? With Johanna has actually, I don't think she fought Amanda. She's fought in Shevchenko, though, multiple times as well. But they're both, all 3 of those ladies in terms of Johanna and Wei, they're way too small. They're down, like I said, they're in the 115 range, whereas Shevchenko has fought at 125 a couple of times. But then obviously the bigger you get in terms of your 45 and stuff like that, they're just too big for them to bulk up that much, because even though you can hop in on the scale and be fine, you're not going to have the same type of power in your hands. You know what I mean? Like to either get Amanda off of you or to knock Amanda out. And that's the issue, because you know what she's coming with. You know she has knockout power.
So Amanda needs to switch weight classes to fight the one girl that you said might have a chance.
Yeah, but she would, honestly, I don't see Amanda dropping down 3 classes. You know what I mean? Like, she's fluctuating between the 2 classes right now, but I just don't think that she's going to drop any more than that, because she doesn't need to. When you're the champ, when you're dominant as she is, why did she have to go chase people? You know what I mean? If anything, I'm telling those people to come chase me.
Yeah. 100%.
But it's definitely, like I said, man, with her, it's just crazy the power that she has in her hands, man. And just to see her be able to do it, and at multiple weight classes. I'm trying to pull up the other rankings real quick for her weight class to see if there's anybody that can make this interesting. But
here were the odds before the fight. Minus 1,250 for Nunes.
Dude, it was like, they said it was one of the largest. They said it was one of the largest gaps in like the history of it. It was nuts, man.
No, just from watching it though, I couldn't believe she was the champ and then Anderson was number 1. It was like, this looks like a huge discrepancy. But based off the rankings, it's supposed to be close.
It was supposed to be. All right, so we're almost, let's get this to
somewhat close. I guess, like I said, the odds were definitely off.
So let's see. From a women's standpoint, so with Amanda Nunes, so she's the champ at 145, and she's also the champ at 135. Shevchenko is the champ at 125. And then the 2 that you were talking about with Johanna and I'm drawing a blank on her other name. She's the champ at 115. So you can see when we're talking about any of those ladies coming up to fight Amanda, they got to bump up to 135. So you're either bumping up 10 pounds, from 125, or you're bumping up 20 pounds from 150, or excuse me, yeah, you're bumping up 20 pounds from 115. That's a big jump, especially knowing that Amanda can fight at 145. So when you think about that from a power standpoint, it's going to put any of those ladies in a legit bind to do that, you know? Mm-hmm. Like I said, we've seen her fight Holly Holm. I don't need to see that again. Now, Jermaine Durandamine, that could get interesting, but I feel like at this stage in Amanda's career, I just found a hard time seeing anyone really push her to that level right now, man.
So she's got a good, what do you think, 2 or 3 years of this type of dominance?
Oh, you're talking remaining? Easily, yeah. Right now, we're trying to figure out, does she want to keep fighting or does she want to retire? But she made it very clear after the fight that, hey, I just had a baby. I still want to keep this thing going. So, all right. I'm going to enjoy excellence. I'm going to enjoy greatness. It's kind of like watching Alabama. Just keep kicking everybody's butt. Roll Tide.
Dude, this other one was pretty interesting from afar.
Absolutely.
I got a lot of questions about it. Yeah.
Oh yeah, let's talk about it. So, are we going to the main event with Yamblehovich versus Izzy, Israel Adesanya? Yes, indeed. So, this is definitely an interesting fight right here, man, without a doubt. So, in this fight, we had the middleweight champion Israel Adesanya bumping up to fight at the light heavyweight rank for the 205-pound belt that Yamblehovich was holding. And dude, this was one of those ones. And this is similar to what we could potentially see when you talk about some of these smaller women fighters having to bump up to fight Amanda Nunes, right? So this is what Israel Adesanya was doing. He was bumping up in weight. And I liked it. I liked the fact that he didn't gain a lot of weight. He stuck with his speed element of it. But to me, I just felt like it was weird watching him. At times, he looked like he was a little bit too hesitant, right? But then at times, it looked like he got a little sloppy. And then the big flaw, the big thing that was exposed in his game was his lack of ground game. Man, we've seen him be very dynamic when he's on his feet. Knockout power, spectacular finishes, can kick with anybody. But we've never really seen him have to defend on the ground. Now, he's had a great takedown defense up until this fight. And typically whenever we've seen him on the ground, he's able to explode back up because he's such a great athlete, so powerful for that middleweight class. But it was different seeing him at light heavyweight where he wasn't the stronger man. He wasn't the naturally bigger man. And we saw him for 2 rounds literally not be able to get up off the mat. That's an issue. But you run into that when you fight these bigger fighters, man.
Now, this actually is maybe a similar situation to what we were dealing with the first fight, where there was a window, from what I was reading, that Adesanya could have fought John Jones. And that would have been the much bigger fight, way more hyped fight. What would have had to happen? What would have had to take place for that to happen? And do you think it was a bad idea for that fight not to be taking place? Because now I don't think it's happening, right?
So this is the thing. The fight can still happen. If I'm John Jones, it is super easy now, though, because the whole mystique and mystery around Izzy was
undefeated.
Can he defend on the ground? He was undefeated. We had never seen him get taken down, though. John Jones is an all-American wrestler, elite level ground, black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. He's a specialist. He's an assassin on the ground. He's an assassin on his feet, but on the ground, it's just ridiculous what he's able to do. Seeing Izzy struggle like that against Jan, he doesn't stand a chance on the ground. Obviously in a fight, of course he could potentially land something, but we've seen John Jones take some crazy punches. I just don't think that fight's as interesting now because of that. But in terms of why the fight didn't happen prior, was mainly just the weight issue. At the time, Izzy hadn't bumped up. This was Izzy's first fight bumping up to 205. When they talked about fighting over, was it a year or 2 ago, maybe, between John dealing with some of his some of his out the cage stuff, that played a part in it. And then obviously when he came back, Izzy wasn't willing to bump up at that time. And John already had made it clear that he wasn't going to bump down, and he was already prepared to bump up. So that's why once they both had their most recent fights, John had said, hey, I'm going up to heavyweight now. So I'm not worried about this 205 fight. And then from there, Izzy was like, well, I'm coming up to 205. So you could just see the timing was off. I still think they can get it done. And honestly, for Izzy, it doesn't hurt him. The big thing is you see the flaw in his game. If he can address that, I still like him at 205. But we know for a fact he can go back down to middleweight and be fine because those guys are just naturally smaller. So he doesn't have an issue just exploding them off the ground and getting up. Whereas when you're fighting a 205 pounder, those guys are coming down from 225, 240. And fight night, they're probably 230, 240. Whereas Izzy on fight night was sitting right around, 200, 202 maybe. So you could just see the discrepancy from a size standpoint. And that's, if you don't have great skill in terms of wrestling and getting up off the ground versus a bigger guy who does know what he's doing, you're not going to stand a chance. And that was the big thing right there. But I still think you could get Izzy and Jones. I still think you can get it. I just don't know if it happens within the next year or two now, though. That's going to be the issue now. Trying to get the fight to happen before John either, has a crazy defeat at heavyweight or he wins the heavyweight belt and potentially retires. Those are the things you got to worry about right now because he's going to take a big chance. Going up to heavyweight for John, it could change. You get hit with one of them punches, lights out. So it's a lot that's going to go on from now till them potentially getting that fight done, but I still think it can happen.
Now, with Izzy going up, was that due to not having anyone really to challenge him in his normal weight class?
Yeah, so for Izzy, that was the big thing. He had literally just claimed out his division. He had beat the number 1 contender by knockout in the first round, and Robert Whitaker. He had beat the new number 1 contender by knockout in the first round, Paulo Costa. And Paulo was interesting because he was very similar to Blachowicz, a power puncher, bigger body guy. But Izzy made light work of him. He stayed on the outside just like we saw. And because he never got taken down, he was able to pick him apart and ultimately go in there and get the finish. But literally for Izzy, it wasn't another appealing fight. He had beat Yoel Romero a year prior to that as well. And he was another guy that was feared in that middleweight division. So he had not, he had beat all the top contenders and he had beat them pretty impressively. He also beat old Anderson Silva a while ago, Derek Brunson. He went through his run of just clearing out that division. So it made sense for him to take the jump. And it would have been cool to become the 5th person in UFC history to be a double champ. But as a whole, I don't think it's going to hurt him too much when he goes back down.
Do you think he will? Is there anything that he has down there going forward?
Well, yeah, because he still has his belt. So he does. He said that he does want to defend his belt at middleweight, but he also said he wants to bump back up and fight at 205 again. Okay. So it's going to be, he's trying to make it similar to what Amanda Nunes is doing in terms of fighting in both classes, defending belts in both classes. We'll see if he can maintain it because it's hard when you're fluctuating your weight like that. It can be very difficult. So he's going to have to be very cautious with that. But if he can, it'll be cool to see somebody from the guy's side starting to bounce back and forth like that and still be successful while doing it.
It's kind of cool the way you're talking. Whenever someone gets a loss like this, it's not looked down upon just because the challenge that's in play where you're fluctuating between weights. And I mean, you're kind of going into this with a little bit of a disadvantage. I know he was favored in this, but you're going into another person's weight class.
Yeah, he was favored from an odd standpoint because he was the fan favorite. And when you break down the fight, you could see on paper what would make you like Izzy in this fight. But at the same time, Blachowicz has been doing his thing. The Polish power is real. He's been cracking heads. Like, that's what he's been doing. And we haven't had to see him, use his ground game to that extent. But he's very dynamic in his own right. He's very underrated. A lot of people overlook him. And that's why after the fight, he said, look, put some respect on my name. Throughout the fight, they're talking about Izzy. Izzy's outlanding him. Izzy looks good. Izzy looks that. And they pull up the stats, and it wasn't close. Blachowicz was dominating this guy. It wasn't close. But you could just see because he's a fan favorite, that's part of the reason why. He got that type of hype around him. But Blachowicz is a beast, man. Blachowicz, he's a guy that definitely should be respected. But going back to the whole how we view losses, in UFC, it's almost like you reward the guy for taking the chance versus docking him for getting the loss, if that makes sense. Whereas if you're talking football and basketball, that one loss, it kind of stands out a little bit more. it's not a moral victory. It's
all it is memes and people making fun of teams and players.
Right. It's way different how losses are viewed in team sports versus in UFC. It's like, even because it's even different than boxing. Boxing, you get a loss, people look at it like, whoa, it's over for this guy. In UFC, you could lose and come right back. Think about Conor. You said it yourself. He's the 6th guy right now, and he's coming off of, he got beat. He got beat bad, right?
Yeah, he's not looking too good.
But he still has that allure around him because he's one spectacular performance away from going right back to being the megastar that he truly is. That's the thing with UFC, because you're fighting so frequently, because how difficult it is. Yeah, like, unless you go out there and just get absolutely steamrolled, we're not really going to, dock you like that. Now, Megan Anderson, for example, it's a little dicey for her because we're like, hey, you got put in front of a beast, a flat out beast. But at the same time, your performance was very underwhelming.
Yeah.
So for her, it could hurt her some, right? But for the rest of these people, we're not looking at them like, oh, well, since you lost, you're bad now. You suck. No. They can still crack heads, baby. They can still crack heads. So either way, it was a good card, though, and I was excited about it, man. So I'm glad
I'm bummed I missed it. I'm bummed I missed it.
At least you got to enjoy the highlights. So with that, next time when the pay-per-view come back up, I got you. All right,
sure.
I'm gonna make sure that you know. All right.
Well, dude, I see you doing some of these UFC podcasts and stuff. That's pretty cool.
Oh yeah, dude. That's like I said, I love my UFC. That you know this, man. That's like one of my.
I know. Whenever we first met, that was I don't know. Absolutely. There was a couple big fights going around that time. I remember you talking to him about them a lot.
Yeah, that's me. That's what I do in the spare time. We watching fights, baby. But that was good on that card, man. But now as we can transition back to some Pittsburgh stuff, because I know the Pittsburgh people, they're like, yo, I like the fighting. That's cool. Love the Moats and Deke podcast. But can I hear some Pittsburgh talk? We got you. Because last night we had action. We had a little Pens action, baby. Let's go Pens. And they got the job done in impressive fashion, man. Winning 5-1 against the Rangers. Just a big time performance by them. Obviously, they've been able to string together a good amount of wins right now. I think they've won, 7 of their last 10 or something like that. Like, they've definitely put together a nice little string right here. But it was good to see them respond to an early goal being given up, because typically we talk about the Pens and how either they're going to start fast, they're going to start slow. But either way, like, it can put them in a hole early on, and we just never know with the goaltending. We never know with the defense, right? So after seeing that first goal be given up, you're just kind of, on your edge a little bit. And it was the first game for Casey DeSmith in, I think 10 starts, because obviously Tristan Jarry had played those last 10 in a row. So you kind of, I know for me, I kind of got a little uneasy. I said, oh, baby, is my guy going down today?
You faltered a little bit.
I got a little nervous because I was like, man, I didn't even think of the rhythm element of, all right, going from not playing in 10 games to now you're out here in this action, and literally your first shot, you're just like, whoa, you know what I mean? So I never thought of that. I went instant to the panic, and I was like, oh gosh, I think my guy's done. Is it over for him? But then he recovered. He bounced back and he did his thing, only allowing 1 goal. Shout out to the young boy, Casey DeSmith. But I like how my offense looked out there, man. The offense looked good, and it was cool because they were, using defense to create that offense, to get some of these 2-on-1 rushes and stuff like that. And I was just really impressed by this team, man, to just see how they've been responding lately,
No, for sure. Letang's been playing good. I don't know if he might have had a point yesterday. There was 12 Penguins that had points. Yeah, he didn't have a goal though.
He had a point. He had the point on the Crosby goal.
But he's been balling out as of late. He's had goals, the past 4 or 5 games. He had some really nice shots yesterday. Kapanen and Malkin though, man.
Dude,
Kapanen has a sweet shot.
Oh my
fast
gosh,
as hell.
dude.
And then I was really impressed with that pass to Malkin. Whenever it was that 2-on-1, you're just like, all right, not only can he shoot, that was a clean ass pass though.
And that was the one that really sealed the deal. That put him up 4-1 at the time, so that was huge. But no, man, Kasperi, he's been looking good. I think ever since he got what game was it? I'm trying to see where he got pulled. Was it? Oh my goodness. It would have been in the third period. Oh man. It was either against the Rangers or the Islanders a couple of games ago.
I think it was Islanders.
He had got pulled. in the third period. And literally ever since then, I think he's scored in each game since then, man. Like, it's been crazy. But when you think about this team, that's what we've been seeing from them, man. They're starting to get hot. They're starting to click a little bit more and play a lot better in all three phases, which is huge, man, in terms of offensively, defensively, and when it comes to the power plays and stuff like that.
And goaltending.
And shout out to and both goalies, too, right?
For sure. DeSmith played good yesterday. You know, I'm a Jari guy, but dude, I mean, the one goal at the beginning, I wouldn't even say that's his fault. That's been happening over the past, like, however many weeks. 3-on-0s, 2-on-0s, 2-on-1s.
Yes.
But yeah, DeSmith played good yesterday, man.
No, man, he definitely did. And like I said, to see from the beginning of the season where we were kind of trying to figure out if we had one goalie, two goalies, or no goalies, right? Because both of those guys, it was like DeSmith, you didn't think, you know, he was as talented, and then Jari wasn't playing up to what we had expected. It made us all a little bit uneasy. But to see now, you know, what they've been able to do to really ease our minds at the goalie position is great to see. And defensively, they're playing better. But I think the biggest piece has been Malkin. Malkin has been very impressive of lately. Way different from what we saw at the beginning of the season where, you know, we were asking ourselves, is he still going to be on this roster, or are they going to look to trade this guy potentially because the play isn't what it's supposed to be? Malkin has been looking really good, though, man. And you can just see the energy that he provides this team with what he's able to do out there, man. So I love it, man. I'm loving what I'm seeing from the Pens, baby. I'm loving it.
Some people are saying it's the fans. Malkin's getting up for the fans.
Well, I will say this. The fans have been back for, 3 games now? And he's balled out in all 3 of them games, man. So that could be it. And they have said that he is a guy that feeds off of that emotion. That they've been very clear with that. So that could definitely be the case because he has looked really good since the fans have come back. So if that's the case, keep the fans in there, baby. Keep them in there.
Another thing that may be flying under the radar a little bit. Remember whenever we released Rutherford, there were rumors about a Letang trade.
Uh-huh.
Maybe the Penguins, maybe the Penguins organization knew what they were doing with that move.
But look, we said a couple of things though, right? We said not only in terms of them shooting down the Letang trade, but we've also seen how multiple players have responded since the change in GM, right? Since the change there at GM and then director of or president of hockey operations, because that job security wasn't there anymore. Letang has played a lot better. Malkin has played a lot better. Kapanen has played a lot better. We talked about the goaltending has played a lot better. Sometimes you need to do that. I think we talked about this a couple episodes ago. You know, we had to switch coaches before to get this done. This time we just went and switched the GMs. It's all good. It's all good. As long as it produces these type of wins and these type of performances. I mean, remember, we hadn't even had a multiple goal win. You know what I mean? It was always, all right, we won by 1 or we won in overtime. We're seeing some of these 3-1s, 4-1s, 5-1s now. This is what we want. This is what it's supposed to look like.
This might be the second game all season where you could coast into the third period and just
seriously,
like,
man,
the Penguins have this. We're good. No worries. So, yeah, you're right, 100%. It's good to get one of these wins. And it was against the Rangers. They're not the best team of all time, but still, I mean, we've lost
to them. Quality team, though, man.
Yeah. We've lost to them in the past. I think. I could be wrong on that, but
it was, well, between them and the Islanders, I keep mixing them up because we keep playing them back to back to back to back.
No,
one night it's the Islanders, one night it's the Rangers. All right. And they're literally, all right, 7 minutes around this corner, 7 minutes around that corner. I don't know. We just know it's one of them teams.
Either way, we were favored. We should have taken care of business, and we did. It's better than not. And we have, everyone's talking about it, I think 8 of the next 10 games, it's Rangers, Buffalo, and the Devils. So
Which is huge, man.
That's a huge stress to try to get some more points and try to bump yourself up in the standings.
Absolutely. And get
it's easy to say that. It's easy to say, like, oh, man, this is our time. Can we get up to first or second place? You still got to win. You got to win these games.
Definitely do,
like
man.
You always say with football, everyone's professional out there.
Absolutely. And even though on paper we're going to be favored, it's not a favorable matchup if we don't make it a favorable matchup. We talk about that a lot as well.
You've seen how this team has operated so much this season.
Man.
Where I don't feel good about any of this. I feel good from the standpoint of, like, this is pointing in a good direction.
Yep.
But to say it's guaranteed, I don't know about that.
Yeah, because they've been very inconsistent at times. I mean, are we going to get this, Penn's team that showed up last night, or we're going to get the Penn's team that showed up against the Flyers in game 3 where they got worked pretty bad? Yeah, you just never know. You never know. So fingers crossed, though. Hopefully the good mojo is flowing. And as long as you keep showing the taco meat, we'll be fine. We'll be fine.
You think that's the key? I think it is. I think it's the mouthing with the fans and maybe this timeline of me wearing these button-downs too.
I'm telling you, man. Got to keep it going. We got playoff beards and we got regular season button-ups. That's simple, man.
Sure.
All right. But either way, man, it's going to be good to see them continue to progress this thing. And they should be playing tomorrow night against...
Yeah, they have a ton of games coming up.
Yeah. I'm about to say they should be playing... I think tomorrow's against the Rangers again, right? Yeah. So tomorrow's against the Rangers. So make sure you tune in for that, baby. I'm going to be excited.
Absolutely.
So now we get to talk a little ball. You ready to get to this football element now, man?
Dude, I'm excited.
I mean, I'm hyped too, baby. I always get hyped when we get to talk a little football. I mean, people think I like UFC. I love football, baby. Love that. And the NFL recently put out their top 101 free agents coming up in the obviously, not even next month, like next week. So they put up their top 101 free agents that are going to be up here. And obviously, the Pittsburgh Steelers had multiple people on that list. So as we go through real quick.
More than I would have thought.
Yeah, absolutely. We have Bud Dupree coming in at 12th on the list. And what they said about him, a late season torn ACL hurts Dupree's value, but he's versatile and strong enough to make a 3-year contract worth it. So he was the first one to make his appearance and the highest on the list. Then from there at 25, we have the lit one, Juju Smith-Schuster, coming in at 25. And they say he's known for his social media, yet Juju's game is decidedly old school. A perfect number 2 receiver who can do all the dirty work with incredible toughness over the middle. I think I agree with them 100% right there. Can't go wrong with that. But I would like to say he's known for more than just his social media. He's known for the birthday cake more than the social media. So, I'm going to go with that one. How you like them apples? All right. Next coming in on the list.
Mike Hilton, 51.
Yes, indeed, at number 51. And it simply says, with flair for days, the Steelers slot corner will bring energy and versatility to any team that knows how to use him. Very true. We talked about him, man. Great blitzing, slot corner, can cover well enough, tough as nails, man, gives you a lot in terms of run support. Now, this guy isn't a current Steeler, but former Steeler, Antonio Brown.
Bro, I'm glad 64. You brought that up because I saw his status on these rankings. I'm like, they're off on this. This is terrible.
64.
You've Juju at 25. Come on, bro. This isn't adding up.
You're not going to tell me that. I don't agree with this. I understand from an age standpoint, Juju is 24, AB is at 33, but AB is 64 on this list. Woo! Now that I think about it, wait a second. I can understand why. AB, outside of playing with Tom Brady, we still haven't seen him.
There's only one other team, though. I think it could work.
That's the thing. So
you
it's
know
like,
what team it is?
I do. I'm with you. But that's, I think, another reason why he's so low. You factor in the age. Obviously, at 33, you're assuming Juju at 24 is coming into his prime. AB is about to be on the way out. But the off-the-field stuff is still obviously lingering because you don't know how he's going to respond in your locker room without a Tom Brady or a certain other guy that we know, guy that we know that happens to reside in the Pittsburgh area,
Those are the 2 QBs where you're like, this would work still. This would work.
I feel like those are the only ones right now. Because
Rodgers.
I don't know.
On paper, yes.
On paper, from a talent standpoint, but I don't know, man. I think those personalities might clash a little bit, man.
Tomlin's still in touch with AB?
I'm not going. I'm just simply saying. I don't know about that one all the way.
In terms of what do you mean? In terms of him hitting the open market, you think it's just going to be Tampa Bay for him, which is going to kill his number.
And I think that's the big thing. Yeah, I think he fits Tampa perfectly because of Brady. If Brady's not there, he obviously doesn't fit Tampa.
You got the former Steelers too, I guess, maybe.
Right. And then on top of that, the other fit, right? The other team that really wanted him was Seattle, more so because of Russell Wilson, but Russ doesn't even want to be in Seattle right now. So even with that, if you're Seattle, I'm not bringing AB there if I don't know if Russ is going to be there. No,
probably
no.
not. Like, even if you're the team bringing in Russ, that's a lot of action going on in one offseason for you. Russ and AB.
Because Russ is going to bring attention by his own right, and he rightfully deserves that. Then you got the regime change of whoever he's replacing. But then to bring in AB, you just know what comes with AB, right, wrong, or indifferent. So it's just hard for me to see teams really wanting to take that chance on him to, number one, give him the money that he deserves, but number two, to run the risk that he might have a meltdown, that it might turn into the Raiders situation again, that some of the off-field stuff that, kind of disappeared might resurface again. Is it worth it at 33 years old? That's the question. Does he still look like the AB of old right now? Granted, he's still
maybe, dude. He was the third or fourth option down there. Yeah. And if you sample it over a course of 16 games, he would have had like 960 yards and 8 touchdowns.
But this becomes the issue, similar to what happened with Juju. When Juju balled out, we said, whoa, Juju, you were facing the number 2 corner, sometimes number 3 corner. We know for a fact AB wasn't drawing the main guys. We know this. We know they had 2 studs out there. So that's the other element of it. We've seen him have success against the 3rd corner, right? Can we see it as him being the guy again? Now, for me, I personally think he can.
If you had to bet money,
to that. Yeah. But you have to, that's the question you got to ask yourself. Are you going to pay him to be your number 1 receiver at 33, knowing some of the off-field stuff that might come with him? That kills your market. So, unfortunately, I understand why they got him at 64, even though I personally think he should be a lot higher than 64.
He definitely should be higher, in my opinion.
Definitely should be a lot higher than 64. It's more so the baggage that's holding him back right now, man. But let's continue on this list because he was a former Steeler, not a current Steeler. Coming in next at number 79, Alejandro Villanueva. And they say this: it looks like the Steelers are ready to move on from Villanueva, which is a red flag because the Steelers are nothing if not loyal. This offseason should definitely show you that the Steelers are very loyal. So, with that being said, interesting at 79 for Big Al. Then we have coming in at number 88, Tyson Aluwalu, part of that amazing 2010 NFL draft class. No, him at 88, it says, it is pretty rare for a former first-round nose tackle to have his best season at 33 years old. But Aluwalu made himself some money with the Steelers. I mean, I think we both agree with that. Obviously, he's turning 34. But, yeah, I think we both agree with that. And I think we had, was there one more left?
Made some money. Are they talking this offseason?
No, yeah. In terms of this, as a free agent coming up, he's going to make himself some money because of what he was able to do throughout his these past 2 years in Pittsburgh. And then the last one on the list, coming in at number 97, last but certainly not least, running back out of the University of Pittsburgh, James Conner. Yes, indeed. So my dog Conner comes in at 97, and what they said is the Pittsburgh offensive line didn't help Conner's decisiveness over the last 2 seasons, and they just clearly left it at that. So, as we go through this thing, let's look at this ranking one more time. So, Bud Dupree coming in at, we said, number 12, correct?
Yep.
I like that rating for him. I think he would have been a lot higher if he wasn't coming off the ACL, but it is a little bit interesting to me that Bud coming off the ACL is at 12, whereas the injury we saw Dak sustain, the broken leg, the compound fracture, he's listed at number 1 on this list.
I have questions about a lot of this list. They have Cam Newton up in the 20s.
Yeah, man.
Andy Dalton, I think's in the middle somewhere there too.
Dude, I'm not really liking this list like that per se. I mean, based on talent alone, they had J.J. Watt at 7 on this list,
and they've butted. And
to me, when I look at Bud, even Aaron Jones as a running back, Shaq Barrett as an edge rusher, the guy from Tampa, you're not going to tell me that J.J. Watt at this stage in his career should be rated higher than these guys on the open market when he's 32 or will be 32, and the rest of these guys 28, 26. Bud is 28. Even the edge rusher from New Orleans who's led the league in sack, or he led the league last year, I want to say, or yeah, I want to say it was last year he led the league. Excuse me. Obviously, TJ Watt led the league last year. My mistake on that. He was leading the league at a later end of the season, and obviously TJ passed him. Trey Hendrickson, though, at 26 years old, he's at 13th on this list. Like, I just have an issue with JJ being that high. Carl Lawson, we know Carl Lawson over in Cincinnati at 14 on this list. I have some issues with that, man.
Unless they're going just strictly based off of what they think these guys are going to get in free agency and not based off the talent and who they are as a player. But that doesn't make sense, though, if you have Cam Newton in the 20s then.
Exactly. Because Cam's not about to get paid like that, man.
So I don't know what the hell they were doing with these rankings.
Yeah. I mean, because even right here, right, when we're just thinking about Cam Newton and Juju Smith-Schuster, they're separated by 1. Juju's at 25, Cam's at 26. I don't think Cam Newton's market is anywhere near the conversation of Juju Smith-Schuster right now.
Yeah.
Like, and this is with us saying that Juju is classified as a number 2, not saying one of these teams that might look at him as a number 1. You're not going to tell me that Cam Newton is only 1 spot behind him in terms of free agency priorities right now or free agency markets right now. Like, it's just not happening, man.
Yeah.
It's not a shot at Cam, but it's more so like, look at what Juju's been able to do recently and throughout his career thus far versus where Cam Newton is at this stage in his career and the performance he just had last year. I just have an issue with that one, man.
Yeah, for sure. At least they gave us a little bit of a bearing for how they have Steelers ranked against the rest of the league, or just probably more or less just how the Steelers are ranked within.
Yeah. Well, and it's good to see. I mean, because I do kind of agree with this. I think the only case that, well, actually, I probably wouldn't. I wouldn't change that because I was flirting with potentially flipping, not in terms of their ranking, but just who would appear first, Mike Hilton or Juju. I think if we're talking Steelers only, right, and which of those 5 guys that we named hurt us the most if they were to leave, if I had to rank them, I'm going Bud Dupree at 1. Mm-hmm. But to me, I'm leaning Mike Hilton at 2. And then, because of what he's been able to do and knowing that you're potentially, because Cam Sutton is going to be in a similar situation where you're going to have to pick which one of those guys you want to do business with.
You think we get either one, though, at least?
I hope so. I definitely hope so. But obviously, we're going to see what other moves they're going to make in these next couple of days to free up a little bit more space. I think that'll tell us a lot more if they'll be able to get one of those guys back. I hope so, though. For me, I think Mike Hilton fits what we're doing defensively better. But I love Cam Sutton from a coverage standpoint, But he doesn't fit what we're doing to the same level unless you're going to play him inside and outside, like we did see them do last year with him, right? We talked about when Joe Hayden was dealing with the COVID later in the year, where Cam had bumped out there to the outside for a little while. Now, obviously, James Pierre is a guy that a lot of people are excited about. So that could also change how you view Cam Sutton, because if you're not looking at Cam Sutton as a guy that's going to be a covered nickel and a guy that could bump to the outside, then his value decreases a lot. Whereas with Mike Hilton, you know what Mike is. Mike is going to give you great run support. He's going to blitz and rush this quarterback, and he can cover well enough. Absolutely. Like, you know what he can do. So if you're going to ride with James Pierre as your third corner, right, or your third outside corner, because obviously Hilton is your inside, your nickel corner. If you're going to roll with that, then I'm fine. James Pierre can stand up on the outside. You'll have Mike Hilton be your interior corner, and you let Cam Sutton walk. But if you're thinking of using Cam Sutton on that outside, then it could become a lot tougher of a decision. But I also think Cam is going to cost a little bit more money because of his flexibility and ability to play outside on the edge.
Really? That's interesting.
Yeah, man.
So you would have the list. You would switch maybe Juju and Hilton, but you're good with the rest of the list?
I'm switching Juju and Hilton. And I'm good with the list because obviously it's weird because Juju is very valuable for this offense. Like, we overlook how much of a safety net he was for Ben, how many clutch catches or hustle plays he made. Think about the opener against the Giants. Benny Snell fumbles the ball. Who's the guy to go and get it? It's Juju. How many times did we see Juju be the first guy in the pile? We give him crap for some of the off-field. Right. We give him crap for some of the off-field antics, the TikTok stuff like that. But when it comes to ball, Juju does all the dirty work. You don't get that from star receivers. You don't get that from, your offensive skill position players that much, the higher end guys. But Juju, he loves the dirty work. He's not afraid to block. He'll stiff arm you. He's a tough player, hard-nosed, old school. I thought the description of him was perfect. But it's weird because as it pertains to the Steelers, though, my question is, who's more valuable on offense, Juju or Al Villanueva? Because Al was the left tackle. And
Wait, so now you're bumping Al up, maybe.
And this is why, because when we talk about the big debate around Ben last year, and I think you're going to agree with me when I get done with this, the divide was, is it Ben's arm strength and accuracy that's left him, and that's why he has to throw the ball fast? Or is it a lack of protection up front?
I go with the latter.
That's what I'm hoping as well. So since they re-signed Ben, I've changed my tune. I'm taking it as O-line. It had to be the O-line. So with that being the case, I think that Al being replaced is going to be a bigger and more pressing need than Juju being replaced. So that's why I would bump up Al to that third spot behind Bud and Mike Hilton. Just solely because of, man, if he can directly impact Ben Roethlisberger having to release the ball as fast as he was releasing, that's crazy. We have to get that position right. So that's why, to me, I just think that him being gone is going to be significant, especially if you can't have somebody at least that's comparable to him. At least comparable. Yeah.
That's the weird thing about this ranking, because based off position, you could put Villanueva 1, honestly.
It's left tackle. You got to have a left tackle.
Where he's at in his career and how he played last year, he had stretches where he was terrible, but then he also had stretches where we were talking about, like, I was playing pretty good. Yeah, he's fine.
Absolutely.
So that's the thing that makes this ranking weird with where do you put Villanueva, where do you put Juju, because I'm good with letting Villanueva walk. I looked up some of the projected numbers for some of these guys.
He might make more than Juju in free agency.
Which is crazy, which makes me think
Seriously,
I'm good with letting him walk. It's just, who are we replacing him with? Are we putting our money that Zach Banner could maybe at least do what Villanueva did last year at the left tackle position?
But this is my thing, right? In terms of that, granted, you're saving a lot more money. But if that was the biggest reason why Ben looked the way he looked, like putting Zach out there, if he's going to do the exact same thing, just a cheaper version of it, how is that going to help the team? How is that going to help Ben get back to being Ben? That's why I think like this is significant. And I just get real nervous about in-house replacements that haven't been playing left tackle. He hasn't been playing that position. He was at right tackle.
Yeah.
And remember, it was a battle back and forth to see if he would even win the right tackle spot. And then he gets hurt in his first game at that spot. So we never got a chance to see him. And then to just think that, all right, he's going to be healthy, weight's good, and just put him at a new position of a higher priority, that I'm not as comfortable with it. Me personally, I'm not.
Yeah. I think I agree with you. Actually, you flipped it a little bit. You put Hilton over Juju. It's weird because with Juju,
you could debate both of those guys.
It's really hard because with Juju, I think you're right in terms of replaceability. You're comparing Juju, him being gone, what does our offense look like? And I'm assuming Claypool's play gets elevated. I'm assuming Deontay's play gets elevated a little bit. And we know what James Washington brings to the table. Yeah. How much of a loss is Juju really compared to Bud Dupree versus Alex Highsmith? Now, if you think Alex Highsmith is going to just walk in and get double-digit sacks,
I do not.
Then you're putting Bud Dupree down on the list.
Yeah. Well, that's why I still have Bud at 1, because I think he impacts this team the most. We saw once he left, that defense never really looked the same.
100%.
It never created the pressure that it was accustomed to creating. Granted, you can make the case for the sack numbers, and we talked about the sack total, how that can be misleading at times. We talk about just creating a hostile environment where the quarterback is under duress, never really has time to get comfortable. We didn't see a lot of that once Bud went down late in the year. Now, I do think Highsmith is going to come in and play well next year. I think he's going to be a big part of this defense. But to expect him to come in and be Bud Dupree in year 2, I just don't see that happening. Mentally, he's capable of it. But physically, there's certain things that Bud could do that Alex just isn't capable of doing right now. So that's the thing to me why I just think that that drop-off will be felt. And that's why I think that Bud is number one on that list, because him being out there changes how we play defense. And not only does that impact that side of the ball, but it helps the offense as well, because we create a lot more turnovers. We're able to get off the field and get the offense the ball a lot more. When he's not out there and that defense is still on the field longer, the offense can't get into rhythm the way they want to get into rhythm. When the offense has a mistake, they're not getting bailed out as frequently now because of that. So you can just see how impactful he was to not just the defense, but to the offense as well. So that's why, to me, I think Bud Dupree has to be at number one from my perspective.
It could be the perfect situation if we did bring Bud back next year and Highsmith was that third guy rotating between TJ Watt and Bud Dupree. Man.
It would be beautiful.
It's tough because we really want Juju back, but whenever you're looking at all these pieces and talking value, man, like Mike Hilton, Bud Dupree, bringing them back, now we don't really have to worry about that with the draft then. We could just maybe focus on offensive line and running back. That's kind of it.
That changes everything, right? That if that happens, feel a lot more confident going into next season. Feel a lot more confident this team can do a lot more and make a legit run. When you talk about losing those pieces, though, and then having to put all your eggs in the draft basket, knowing that you don't have the resources from a free agency standpoint to get, top tier talent, I don't like that as much. So I'm definitely hoping that, this can work out. Now, the interesting thing with Juju still is this. He keeps putting out the reports that he doesn't care about the money. He wants his offer.
I'm hearing some reports from the Steeler Gang event. Actually, it wasn't a Steeler Gang event. It was a Juju event, but Steeler Gang was there.
Pulled up, man. Yes,
I'm hearing some reports from people over there saying they talked to Juju firsthand. He keeps saying he wants to come back.
That's what I'm seeing as well. And then even his mother was very adamant on social media as well, backing it, and even putting to rest some of the rumors about the offer that he received from the Steelers and things like that. But I'll say this. If I'm the Steelers, it seems from Juju, everything that he's put out, that he hasn't received the offer just yet. If I'm the Steelers, I call his bluff. I'll go out there and I'll give him an offer. Now, I'm going to make sure this offer is very much team-friendly, because he's been very adamant about wanting to return. He's been very adamant about not caring about money. He's been very adamant about he wants to stay here. So I would come out here with a number that I think, hey, we can afford to pay you this. We're comfortable paying you this based on the other talent that surrounds you as well. Since you don't care, here's your opportunity to take it. And then from there, we can lay it all to rest. Like that's kind of where I'm at with it, because we know we're sitting at March 8th. Free agency starts in a week. Like, it's either put up or shut up time. You know what I mean? If you want to come back, Steelers, offer him a contract, whatever y'all feel like he's worth or y'all comfortable paying, and then we can get this thing done. It doesn't have to keep lingering on, though. Like, that's the thing with me. I'm just like, let's go. You know if you want to come back. You know the number that you're willing to come back for. We ain't got to play the guessing game no more.
Could it be some see, that's the thing, dude, in terms of value. I mean, I think you're right, man. I think you're right. It's tough to say because Juju was very impactful, and I would definitely miss him in our offense.
Without a doubt, man.
Yeah, how can you make it work? Can you backload the contract? But then you want to be paying Juju double-digit plus in like 3 or 4 years?
But this is my thing. If he's saying he doesn't care about the money, he wants to come back for, he'll come back for whatever. All I'm saying is, if his market is 10, if I'm the Steelers, I'll say, you want 6? I give you 6 to come back. Like, what's up? You don't care about your money like that? Come on. Or I'm even offering 5. I mean, why pay full price if I can get it for a discount? That's kind of how I look at it. Because if you're the Steelers, is Juju worth double-digit money knowing the talent that you already have in that room that are on rookie contracts? That's what you got to ask yourself.
For sure. Because, you're going to have to pay Deontay and Claypool coming up.
Absolutely.
James
Deontay's
Washington
up,
even.
James Washington is after this year. Deontay is the year after that. And then Claypool will be the year after that. So
and who could we draft in that time period where you're like, all right, this guy's the next receiver stud?
Yep. So that's the issue. So without disrespecting Juju, with a disrespectful offer, that's kind of the scenario, because it's not about if Juju is a good player or not. It's not about is he worth this money or not. The problem is the talent that these guys already have.
If we didn't have Claypool, it'd be a different story.
It's way different. If you didn't have Deontay, it's way different. If you didn't have James Washington, it's different. But knowing these other guys that are either equally talented or some can make the case that they're more talented, it makes Juju a lot more expendable. And that's why, from the Steelers' perspective, the money gets a little dicey here because, well, if you're the Steelers, would you even want to pay him $5 million when you know these other guys are making a couple $100,000?
For sure.
You run into that issue again, you know?
It's definitely a good question to ask. But with us talking numbers like this, it's why AB to the Steelers coming back makes 100% complete sense. I'm looking at some of these projections.
He will be cheap.
They're saying like $3-4 million a year for AB, which I was a little surprised by. I thought it would at least be like 7, 8, 9 range. But geez, oh man, you would rather be paying AB $3 or $4 million.
Listen, we're not even thinking twice about that. Like I said, he could have the same corner locker. If you want, he can have my old locker. I don't even care. Either way, get on in there for your little 2 for a little $3 million and do what you do. Do what you do. We know what you do. You know what I mean? So
you know what it is with the Steelers, Big Ben. You know that chemistry, Mike Tomlin.
Absolutely, man. The Wi-Fi always good, baby. Come on now,
man.
Yeah,
it'd be perfect. I don't know if it's gonna happen though. I don't know Ben and AB relationship if that's mended or not. AB Steelers organization, AB Rooney.
At least you got AB and Tomlin. That's
True.
One ace in the hole. We got that definitely. So it'll be interesting, man.
Because it makes complete sense.
It makes a ton of sense, especially what you just said. Would you rather pay Juju $5 to $6 million, and that's drastically below his market value, or would you rather pay AB $3 million, $4 million,
even 5 or 6? Like, what if Tampa's only paying AB 3, and we're like, hey, we'll give you 6?
Yeah, or if you had to choose Juju for $6 million, AB for $6 million right now.
I'm still going AB.
Those are serious questions, man.
I'm still going AB for sure.
And you probably could get them on a 1-year deal. It doesn't even have to be a multi-year deal. Just give it to them on a 1. Just let me see what it look like. I need to know if it's still real. I think it's still real, but I need to know. That's one thing, man.
It would be perfect. Anything else on these rankings? Is Connor kind of underrated, actually?
I do believe at 97. I like Connor. Like Chris Carson, for example, is at 53. I don't think Chris Carson. I think Chris Carson is a better player, but I don't think he's that much better than what a James Conner is. But both of these guys, you know, when you think about the injury history, the highs and lows from both of their performances, I just don't think that gap is that big. I'm trying to say who else is rated crazily. Kenyon Drake at 68. Like I said, with James at 97,
I'd maybe still rather have Connor, but not at the number.
Yeah. Right. And the money is going to have a lot to do with it. But I think the thing with James that he kind of gets the bad rap for, we all agree that the O-line struggled. And even as it pertains to Al was good, really good at times in pass protection. But in terms of just movement, right, blowing guys off the ball, he struggles with that. When I think of those things, why do we make it as only an indictment on James Conner that the running game wasn't working when we know for a fact there was, very minimal push up front. Obviously, it was mix up of a line a couple of times because of different injuries and stuff like that. But I just think that James definitely is getting, he's taking on a lot more of that than he really is responsible for. And that 97 definitely shows that. I think James in the right situation can still ball out. I think from a health standpoint, that's going to be the big thing. But if you have him in a better situation up front from a O-line standpoint, I don't think he's going to have to take as many hits. I think that, he's going to be able to be the one delivering the blow a lot more than being on the receiving end of it. And I think wherever he goes in his next situation, he's not going to have to be the bell cow back. It's going to be some form of legitimate rotation, legitimate committee, which is ultimately going to help him a lot longer in terms of extending his career a lot longer.
So I'm looking at the stats. James Conner last year. Mm-hmm. In 13 games, 721 yards, 6 touchdowns. That's 4.3 yards per carry, 215 receiving yards, 35 receptions. And that's 13 games. In reality, it was probably more like 11 and a half or 12 with some of the games he played.
And then too.
Ball security.
Talk about the ball security.
Did he fumble?
That's what I think he might have had one.
I'm trying to look. Right? I don't know if it's popping up here. Fumble. 2.
2. Okay. So still good ball security as well. When I think of all those things, it's like I think the perception surrounding James is very inaccurate right now. I think that, like I said, it was all the different variables, but he became the face of it. He became the scapegoat for that. And unless you get some of these running backs that we talked about, right? In terms of a Travis Etienne, in terms of a Najee Harris, in terms of a Javonte Williams, I don't know how much of an upgrade we're getting at running back as we continue to progress down because, like I said, James is still a good player. So you're going to make sure that, hey, this guy needs to be at least better than what James was.
Sure. Just not for $5-6 million for the Steelers organizational standpoint.
Yes. Yeah. We're not paying that for we won't need to pay that. Not to running back right now.
Yeah. Yeah. So if you look at it, 930 something yards on, 11 and a half, 12 games last year.
Yep.
With our shitty offensive line.
I was say, and being very unbalanced as well. We didn't have a lot of balance in terms of rushing attempts consistently either. I like that for James, man. I think that in the right situation, James can still flourish, man. He can still be a really good player.
He was like a top 5 or 6 rusher 6-7 weeks into the season. I think what hurts him too is whenever Benny Snell was in, I thought his games just felt better. Like whenever he played really well, like the Giants game, you felt like, oh man, Benny Snell, this is Steeler running back right here. And then the Bengals game too, just when everything was going to shit, he came in and provided some type of running game.
Yeah.
I think that's what hurt Connor, because whenever he had his good games, it never really felt like we needed him that bad. I think one of them came in the Cleveland game. We were already dominating them.
Yep.
So that probably has something to do with the perception too.
Mm-hmm. So it is crazy surround him. And I also know in terms of the yards per carry, it was largely ballooned because of that run that he had at the end of the game against Denver. No, seriously, if you take the Denver run out of it,
really, it goes down to 4 maybe.
It goes to like less than 3. It was in the 3. It was like 3.5 or 3.7 or something like that. Yeah.
Really?
So yeah. Because we did this week 2 ago. We actually had to look at his numbers and we were like, well, man, it wasn't that bad. Look at the average yards per carry. We're like, oh, that was the play. You take that out. He's like, oh, all right, not as impressive. Okay. But either way, man, the play happened. So with the play happening, we're going to take them yards per tote. So I like it.
Sure. Anything else?
I'm trying to think.
I think I got one more hot topic if you want it.
Oh, all right, get to me now. What you got?
BJ Fenney released.
I did see that.
Is it wise to bring him back?
I like it. He'll be cheap, very familiar, versatility in terms of center and guard. Matt Filey gives you versatility in terms of tackle and guard. So I think that you should try to bring him back so you can have options in terms of how you replace and fill in spots. But with BJ Fenney, he understands the division. He has the size. He's been relatively healthy. And like I said, knowing that he can come in and be the starter at center, if you needed him to be, he could do that. He started for the Steelers multiple games and played at a high level. But then also say you draft a center and we want to make a move at guard, right? They say, hey, we're going to make a move with DeCastro. We're going to bump Fowler out to tackle and do this. Well, now you have BJ Fenney here, so you don't have to worry about drafting a guy or trying to pay somebody crazily in free agency to come in here and do that job. So I personally would love it. And that's my brother. That's Swaggy B. That's my dog. So I would love for him to come back, man.
I was reading some of the stuff. He obviously got picked up by Seattle last offseason. Mm-hmm. Then he got traded to the Bengals.
Yeah, Seattle paid him to go out there. It was a 2-year
Did they view him as a starter then? I think he was initially supposed to be starter, but then someone beat him out.
The money, it was like a 2 for $6. So a 2 for $6 is fringe starter money. You factor it in, it'd be, $3 million per year average, just depending on how they want to slice the deal up. But the reason you do it like that is because BJ hadn't started 16 games in a full season. He started numerous games in seasons, but he's never started a full 16. So part of that goes into that. Now, I forgot the guy that beat him. I don't know if he was a guy that they drafted or not, but that happens. You know what I mean? But the money, it never was this is the clear-cut guy. I don't mind if you're the starter or if you're a high-end
We'll take a chance on you.
We'll take a chance on you. Yeah, that's what that money was. And then obviously you get traded to Cincinnati for the Carlos Dunlap situation. It never really works out there. I think you come back to Pittsburgh and it's the perfect scenario. You already got paid to go to Seattle, so you got the millions in your pocket now. Now you could come back and worry about balling out and increasing your market. So when you hit it again in a year or two, you can get paid even more as a legit starter. If I'm BJ, that's what I'm thinking at least.
Yeah, because what I was reading was this offseason wasn't too great for him with the COVID stuff. I guess he got a little bit out of shape, but then going from Seattle to the Bengals. So, yeah, maybe this could just be a one-off year. Not like he's the greatest offensive lineman of all time, but like you said, he's stepped in for us, and Seattle kind of paid him as the fringe starter. We could use that right now. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah. And when it comes to constructing a championship roster, these are the type of things that you have to do. These are the type of decisions that you have to make. Because, like I said, you have too many pressing needs to just go into the draft with, you know, all of that on the table. You got to find some ways to, all right, this guy can be a quality starter, but he's not a superstar. Most of the teams that are elite, they have a couple of superstars on offense and defense, but the rest are just quality starters, just quality good players. Excuse me, that's, I mean, how it is in the majority of your sports. Unless you get a super team like the Golden State Warriors or the Miami Heat, most of the time it's one or two superstars if you're lucky. And then from there, a ton of just really good starter / role player type of guys. BJ fits that mold. BJ is a guy that you have with your team when you're successful because he is a glue guy. He can play multiple positions and play them well enough to get the job done. And when you're going to have to cut corners the way the Steelers are going to have to do right now, that's a guy that you eye. That's the guy. And it makes sense for both parties. Like I said, from BJ's angle, it makes perfect sense. But from the Steelers angle, it makes perfect sense. So I think that, man, it should be a no-brainer. I'm hoping it is.
29, too. It's not like he's 33
Yeah,
or 34.
He's young, dude. And has high pedigree. In terms of the accolades that he had coming out of college, I mean, he's a accomplished center. I mean, he's done a ton of good things. And in his career, like I said, he's shown the versatility to play center or guard. That's what you want, especially if you're the Steelers right now, knowing, you know, what could be going on in that interior portion of his offensive line. You want guys like that around while you're in transition.
Agreed. I'd definitely be for it.
That was solid right there. I'm glad you brought up my dog, BJ. Shout out to Swag UB, man. That's my dog right there, man.
I think that's it in terms of hot topics.
I like it there, man. So shout out to the hot topics. Shout out to these Steelers free agents. And hopefully, you know, we'll get the good ones to return. And then the other ones that hopefully they get paid.
This week should be jam-packed, right? At some point.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. It has to start. We're going to get in action this week, definitely next week. So, yeah, enjoy the ride, my friend. Enjoy the ride. So, with that being said, man, shout out to everybody that's been rocking with us, enjoying the journey with us as well. And until next time, baby.
Peace.